Cheating ex-wife suddenly showed up after 10 years and I was shocked when she told me what karma did to her because now she regrets her action. Hey guys, I'm using a throwaway account since my son uses Reddit, but I could really use some advice here. This may be a long post, but I want to make sure nothing important is left out. Background: when I 38M was around 21, my ex, 39F, got pregnant. I was a rookie cop a month out of the academy, but wanted to do right by my ex and future child, so we got married and moved in together a few months before my son was born. Things were good at first, both me and my wife worked so we were able to maintain a decent life and be together as a family. However, when my son was about 3, I come home from work and my wife serves me with divorce papers. She was seeing someone else and wanted to be with them, talking about how this other guy could give her the life she always wanted. This guy in question was some big shot exec and was loaded. Yes, I got a paternity test, and my son is indeed mine. We proceeded with a divorce and she left to go be with her new partner. Luckily, my parents and my ex-in-laws, they were shocked by my ex, but wanted to have a relationship with their grandson, were a big help with my son. My ex visited whenever she could, but by the time my son was 6, she was completely out of the picture. Things were definitely tough at first. Being a single dad while also going from a dual to single income household really put me under a lot of stress. However, a good friend of mine and I started a very successful business together, and me and my son had a dramatic change in quality of life. I was able to buy a nice house and get anything my son needed. I was also able to adjust my work schedule since I was my own boss and be there for my son. Fast forward to present day, and my son is 16 years old. We have a great relationship, and I've even been talking to an amazing woman, 33F, who is also a single parent. I haven't made it official with her, and I haven't told my son yet since I don't want to do anything to shake up his world. I never dated until now because I wanted to put all my focus on my son. Here is where things get complicated. A few days ago I'm home and my son is at football practice. I hear the doorbell ring and to my surprise, my ex is standing there. I was honestly shocked. All these years and she decided to show up now? I invited her in and we chatted a little. She told me that she had gotten a divorce a few years ago and had taken time to find herself. She was a bit taken aback when she saw pictures of our son, who was now a young man. She told me that she regretted her decision all those years ago, and if I wanted we could be together and be a family again. Moments after she said this, my son comes home. My ex was on the verge of tears as he walked in and rushed over to give him a hug. However, my son's face went white, he brushed her away and immediately went up to his room. My ex asked if she could speak with him, but I suggested that she leave for now, and that we'd set up a time to talk. I went up to speak to my son, and we talked about what had happened, and he was just as confused as me. I left him alone for some time, and though about the interaction I had with my ex, and the idea of us being a family again. Here's the thing, I don't love my ex, in fact I resent her, not for leaving me but for leaving my son. All those nights when he was young, and he would cry that his mom didn't love him, or those times I had to choose between going to my son's game or picking up some overtime so I could buy the Christmas presents my son wanted. But I love my son more, and if both his parents being back together with my ex makes him happy, then I could care less about how I feel. On top of this, things are going well with the new woman I'm seeing. My son knows her, but only as a friend of mine. I'd like to see where that goes. Anyways, so any advice on how to deal with all of this? I only want what's best for my son. We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1. Are you seriously asking if you should get back with an estranged ex that you don't love? Why on earth do you think that would be good for your son? He's never known this woman. I can't believe this is real. Comment 2. You let your son decide if and how he has a relationship with his mother. You owe her nothing but civility because you're a good person. You will not allow her access to or information about your son unless he wants it. She doesn't get to just be a family again, even if you take her back, which you'd be stupid to do. Your family is you and your son and whomever you choose as a partner in the future. Your ex is owed nothing, and anything she gets from your son is more than she deserves, and if she gets nothing, that's on her. Cheating wife thought skipping reconciliation will magically solve her problems, but little did she know I decided make her end up on the street. This all began in November of 2019. I will try to summarize the best I can in the 6 months up to this point. In November, my wife asked me to go to marriage counseling. She had just begun to see her own therapist as a requirement for anxiety medication. She voiced some grievances about feeling as though I did nothing around the house and would never help her. We have a son, 8M, which she also believed I wasn't involved enough in. We had been married 9 years at that point. I told her to find a counselor she was comfortable with and to set up an appointment, and that I would be happy to go. She never did. Everything seemed okay until January. I had begun taking over a lot of the cleaning duties of the residence. Laundry, dishes, clutter, vacuuming, etc. I had been the only one cooking for years. The only time my wife or son had a non-fast food meal was when I cooked. My wife was not the brightest when it came to academics, and I assisted him with all of his homework. The usual schedule for us is that she works August 5th Monday Friday, whereas I work noon to 0030 on Wednesday through Saturday. Our son has a karate class and stays until 18:30 when she would pick him up. She left her rings on the table one Friday night after a text message basically saying that I never do anything and take her for granted. I told her I was the one who felt unappreciated due to all of the extra work I did around the house as well as working a 12-hour swing shift. She took our son to her parents' house and drove herself to a faraway town where she has extended family. My heart broke. I didn't know what to do. I called EAP. Took some advice. Set up marriage counseling myself. She came back Sunday evening. After that, though, I became a bit needy. I would constantly ask what was wrong, tell her how much I loved her, and ask for a conversation to figure out what was wrong. I met with the counselor first, told her what was going on from my perspective. It was supposed to be a together session. But she couldn't make it. She continued to leave town each Saturday and not return until Sunday evening. Our son would toy with her and leave it to her parents each time. The week after my first session, she sat me down and said that maybe we needed to split 50-50 with joint custody. I got on my knees and told her that I loved her and did not want a divorce. Pleaded with her to try counseling. She agreed. I was beginning my process through the stages of grief. She failed to show up to the second appointment. I spoke again, solo, to the counselor. She then had a solo session herself. I contacted an old friend, whom I had grown apart from. He told me to sit her down. Tell her directly that I didn't want a divorce, but if she was set on one, that we would proceed forward and just give her space. That Sunday I did just that. This time, though, I didn't beg, plead, act depressed, or anything. She sat in silence for a minute, told me she was going to smoke, and left town, leaving our son with me. I took care of him as I often did, and never sent her a message or attempted to call her. At 2100 hours, I called my parents and let them know what was going on. I talked for a long time with them. My mother wanted me to change the locks. I declined. I agreed to meet with them on Wednesday. At 2300 hours, she returned home, saying that she wanted our marriage to work out and agreed to do the counseling. We had a session that Monday where she spit vitriol at me. The counselor described it as Parentville. We set boundaries. I was to remove my mother from a joint bank account I had since I was 16 and do more activities with my wife. She was to stop using Facebook and stop going out of town each week. On Wednesday, my parents gave me a new car. My car was derelict, so it was replaced. The reason was that my parents were concerned with my ability to take care of our son if I had no transportation when my wife went out of town. My wife did not take kindly to this gesture. The next appointment was Thursday, and I was given a new boundary of not speaking to my mother or father. I called them one last time and told them I would not be contacting them for a while, with an unknown end date. I went to a lawyer the next day, just to see what my options were and if there was anything I needed to do. I ended up being told to keep financial records, don't add her to the new bank account, photograph the residence in disarray when I got home, and record conversations both in phone calls and in person. I began to do so. Just in case. I would photograph, then clean. I was the only one doing chores. My wife and son wouldn't have clean clothes, house, or food if I just didn't do it myself. On March 7th, I took my wife to an expensive restaurant of her choice. Her birthday. I had to take off work to do so, because on the 8th, she went out of town again. She made a new Facebook account and also still had her old one. When she returned, I told her I was starting to have trust issues. We continued going to counseling. Our son stayed with my parents for spring break. The spiral for me got worse here. She came home Sunday from camping, wanting nothing more than to be with me. Said she had a revelation that she was no longer 21 after getting pissed drunk the night before. I found that she left her Facebook logged in on the home computer that night. Found a message dated March 7th, to some random guy I didn't know stating she was just trying to get her stuff together to get out of the marriage. Another message to a different guy asking to ride four-wheelers with him one Saturday. I confronted her. She became extremely apologetic and told me that she sent the divorce message when she was mad and didn't mean it. That she was going to ride four-wheelers as a group, not just with some dude. We had a counseling session the next day. I voiced my lack of trust to the counselor. The dynamic had shifted. I was asked to leave the room for a bit while they talked. When I was brought back in, I was asked if I thought she was cheating on me. I told the counselor I didn't think so, that she wasn't that kind of person. I still had my trust issues though. Last night, while cleaning, I got a hold of her phone. She had been very secretive and guarded of the device. I found a text message from 22:30 hours. I love you, sweet man of mine, to a person. I went through the social media she had. Found evidence of deleted messages. Found that she had been sending loving messages to this guy for a while. I confronted her. It took a while. She confessed. The problem was, after my heart broke a while back, once I got past the acceptance step, I was just logical. I was mad, but not in any way that wouldn't be easily controllable. She claimed she met him when she was out of town. She had been with him in person twice and only slept with him once. She begged and pleaded for forgiveness. We talked for 6 hours. Well, I did the talking. She would just reply with "I don't know" and "I'm sorry." I told her to call him while I was present and explain herself to him. She apparently had lied to him and told him she was separated. He would never answer. So she sent him a text. He replied, then she blocked him. She finally deleted all her social media and swore to stop going out of town. Begged to stay. She went for an emergency counseling session. All we were told is to get some sleep, as neither of us had. I sent our son back to my parents until we figured this out. I have no trust left to give her. I can't believe anything she says. I have audio recordings of the confession, photos of the things on her phone and Facebook before she deleted them. She is pleading, constantly saying she loves me. Said it was only a fling, but still can't explain why she maintained contact with the man. I can't believe a word of anything she says. I don't know what to do. I keep running the options through my head. I don't know. I really need some advice. Update March 28, 20. We went to the counselor on Thursday. I vented my sorrows for a bit. The counselor dismissed me and said she would rather work with my wife, and I should find someone else to talk to. I went and retained the lawyer I spoke with. Got paperwork ready for an uncontested divorce. She stayed the night. Anytime we tried to talk, my wife just told me she wants it to work and is sorry, then tells me she feels empty and unable to feel emotions. Blames it on her taking Lexapro. I give her a copy of the uncontested paperwork. She says she won't sign it without someone else looking at it. She leaves to stay at her mother's. She texts me and says she is going to pick up our son from my parents, so they can play in her mother's pool. I called the lawyer, we changed it to a contest and filed immediately. She texts me briefly, calls once for a minute, and then hangs up. I go back to work today, just so I'm not moping. She mumbles love after we talk briefly. Say she still wants me to have hope, and that she needs to get her thoughts together. Now I find myself unable to eat. Gagging randomly, dry heaving. Having nightmares. Restless sleep. Sorrow, hopelessness. Update. Basically, D-Day was March 24th. Found a text, confronted, she confessed. She had been going out of town every Saturday and partying, leaving our son, and not doing anything around the house. She left and stayed at her mother's for about a week and a half. We have an 8-year-old son. She came back to try to work things about and care for him during the normal work week while I'm at work. I filed for a contested divorce. She has been served. She is sleeping in another room but has snuck back in bed twice. Once because she was feeling ill, the other because it was storming last night, and as an adult, she is still terrified of storms. She whispers honeyed words to me, but can't seem to talk to me about her emotions. I set 3 main boundaries for me to be able to begin any sort of reconciliation. No social media whatsoever. Delete all accounts. She has done this. So far. I have access to her emails and phone by her permission to check. No going out of town except for her mother's. No communication with any male friends who live out of town. She, so far, has abided by this. Call and text logs confirm. Sign a legal separation with a postnuptial agreement forfeiting all rights to any assets of mine with a joint custody agreement in the event the separation becomes permanent. She has yet to do this. She keeps stringing me along. I'm tired of flipping from anger to depression and pain and then sorrow. I've tried writing letters and journaling. I've read this forum many times a day. Read articles on the topic. I feel like I need this to start healing, but I can't let go when she is so close to the line in the sand I drew. What is she waiting on? Should I just accept this the way it is? I'm lost again. She hasn't sought an attorney of her own, at least as of the time I write this. I don't know what she is thinking. Update 2. Overview. I was having a hard time with my wife. For a while, went to counseling with her. She was leaving every Saturday out of town. Came home one Sunday with a changed attitude and was all about me and our marriage. Had trust issues after that, got her phone, found evidence, confronted, confession. She left. I contacted a lawyer and set 3 boundaries or conditions, one being a legal separation and a postnuptial. She came home for COVID to help with our 8-year-old son. Now that I've given a brief summary. She had been taking our son to her mother's house almost every day. I thought we were doing better and might even be able to reconcile. I wanted to. I wanted her to want to. She would tell me she did. Then she would turn around and say, never mind, divorce. This week, more of the same, but she changed her mind about the legal separation. Or so she led me to believe. My lawyer had warned me that she would be very unstable and manipulative. But she was my wife. 9 years married, 12 together. I wanted that hope. It was addictive. We talked some. She would tell me everything was going to be all right. We would sleep in separate rooms, but she would sneak back in my bed from time to have me hold her, rub her back. Today she was supposed to talk to her attorney and set up the legal separation with mine. Instead, she called and told me she was moving out. I was crushed. Again. I was already having a hard time at work, even after putting in a hardship to get my first shift assignment after 16 years employed, but I asked for their next 2 days off. She wasn't even going to come back home. I told her to bring our son back and agreed to terms she wanted during the divorce settlement stuff. Week for week, as long as she had her own place, and was living by herself with no roommates except for a new spouse. She finally brought him back. Later on, after whining and looking for excuses, we sat him down and told him a bit of what was going on. It crushed him. She had crushed both of us again. She took her clothes and wanted 3 pieces of furniture, small things. Whatever, I didn't care about that. She couldn't take those with her. I told her to hurry up and get them in a day or two and give me her key back. I wanted to go to my family and I don't want her damaging anything. My lawyer told me she would send notice of her vacating the residence, so she couldn't just kick in the door, it would be burglary after that. Though in my malice, it would be funny to see her with a felony on her record. It feels final. Feel relief hiding amongst my grief. I read the book you all recommended to me, Leave a Cheater, Gain a Life, but I guess I was chasing a unicorn. But the betrayal is back. My sorrow, my anger, my resentment, my longing. I feel abandoned all over again. She isn't good with money. It's only a matter of time before she realizes how much it really costs to live, once I cancel her phone off our account and have the utilities placed back in my name. I want her to fail. I want her to come crawling back. I want her to feel this pain. I took care of everything. She didn't even need to lift a finger. She was toxic, selfish, a liar, a cheater. I still loved her, why? Why do I still want her back? Why am I still wanting her to try? I talked with her briefly tonight. She said she had a migraine. Good. She said she didn't want the legal separation. I said fine, but you offered no alternatives, you didn't look any up, you didn't even try to convince me otherwise. You did nothing that wasn't self-serving. I said, I left the door of reconciliation open to you, and you slammed it shut in my face. This is all on you. You got what you wanted. Then the conversion ended. No more I love you. Just, goodbye. 2 more days until the 1-month anniversary of D-Day, and now I am alone, with my son, who doesn't understand and is convinced he will change her mind. I told him that it wasn't his burden. I told him we both loved him, he wants his mother to comfort him, he wants what I wanted. It breaks my heart, all over again.